The Death Valley National Park has become a hotspot for anomalous activity. Among the discovered happenings, there have been reports of shifting geography within the cave, reality distortions, and even an entirely separate ecosystem of otherworldly creatures. Several investigators have been assigned to find the source of these anomalies, but most of them have gone missing on their expeditions. Consumed by the cave, never to return, or so it was thought. Mr. Richard Gray was among the first of the investigators to enter the cave. He had one successful expedition in which he documented the religious practices of the humanoid race of the people of the cavern before being chased out. Despite his protests, Mr. Gray was sent in for a second investigation of the cave system and did not return. After several subsequent investigators had been lost to the cavern, Mr. Gray emerged from the cave, looking notably unkempt and malnourished. He displayed many telltale signs of insanity, showing a wide range of intense emotion in only a short time, and having numerous violent outbursts during the time being interviewed. In the first 2 hours, he would occasionally grant his interviewer interesting responses amongst the outbursts of hysterical ramblings, violent threats, and sewer slide all ideations, to use the monetizable pronunciation. Among the information Mr. Gray provided to the staff, many of the things he stated were particularly concerning. Mr. Gray seemed to know the names of every subsequent investigator that entered the cave, despite being missing for the time of their recruitment and deployment. He even claimed to know what happened to each of them, claiming numerous horrors, each more fantastical and ridiculous than the last, were responsible for their disappearance or demise. The second parts of these statements could not be verified. However, he described the process of each of their deployment down to the unique instructions that they were given. Mr. Gray, despite his clear insanity, was reporting factual information that he had no possible way of knowing. While there was a full 3-hour recording and written transcription of the interview, all evidence was destroyed in the process. The information left is from the interviewer's memory. Mr. Gray claimed that not all of them were dead, but that they weren't coming back. As he put it, they now belonged to her. He also began referring to the cave as its own entity, saying she doesn't want you to send anyone else in. Mr. Gray listed every agent's name and assignment correctly, down to the exact instructions. He also had encyclopedic knowledge of the cave's ecosystem. The investigator listed giant fish monsters, a room that turns any organism who ventures into it into a statue, a spider with human biology, creatures that are legally distinct from the ones from the descent, and caverns that lead to pits that are literally bottomless. The final statement that Mr. Gray made was that the cave was alive. After this statement, Mr. Gray went completely silent for a moment before he began screaming. The screaming looked as if it were not caused by anger or madness, but instead a terrible pain. His lips then shut, and his cheeks puffed out as his stomach made a gurgling noise and his mouth filled with liquid. Mr. Gray then projectile vomited a stream of what appeared to be blood directly into the investigator's open mouth. The investigator vacated the room in panic and disgust, puking onto the floor of the waiting room. Upon re-entry to the investigation room, despite formerly being strapped to a chair with leather binds, Mr. Gray was gone. He was only alone in the room for 10 minutes, and upon hearing a loud bang, the investigator entered to see he had not only ripped through his restraints, but had dug through the concrete floor and escaped. He had destroyed the recording device, and all of the notes taken were missing. He had left a trail of flesh, and all 10 of his bloody fingernails were ripped and strewn about in the dirt. There was a trail of sloppily painted symbols written in blood, all the way back to the mouth of the Devil's Hole. While these symbols were hastily created, it was unmistakably the same cultish iconography painted around Death Valley and in the Devil's Hole. The interviewer was instructed to transcribe everything he could remember, but was quickly overtaken by what looked to be the same symptoms of madness as Mr. Gray, and began attacking those around him before sprinting towards the cave. Security on site was ordered to dispatch him, and he was terminated with a headshot. The CEO of Lucicorp has promised to begin efforts to dismantle the Devil's Hole tourism infrastructure program, in hopes that none of the lives lost to the cavern will be in vain.
Come one, come all, to the grand opening of the Devil's Hole Nature Preserve, where you and the whole family can experience things God never intended. Explore the constantly changing cavern maze, meet fun locals, and enjoy our state-of-the-art zoo. Order on the app and receive 2 free children's tickets to the Slime Dragon Lazy River. Lucicorp is not responsible for any damages to the property, persons, or sanity sustained while visiting the Devil's Hole Nature Preserve.
If you like this video and want to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with all notifications enabled, or I'll feed you to the cave, which now that I know it's a she, you know. I mean, I don't, but maybe you do. I want to thank Dead Rex for drawing all these spooky critters.
I'd like to thank Biodegradable for editing this video. They're a great editor and you should go watch all of their things.
Shout out the Inner Circle. Love y'all.